Hey everybody, it's the Wrestling Classic Justin here. I just want to give a huge shout out to Maestro Classic. Have you ever wondered how superstars such as Triple H, Sheamus, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, and Kofi Kingston all stay so perfectly groomed? It's all because of Maestro Classic. Maestro Classic is the best in its category and loves crafting a better you in beard care. They are undeniably good at keeping your beard clean and conditioned. They have a sulfate-free beard wash to clean without drying your skin and leave a conditioning beard butter to help groom it smooth. The beard oil is silky smooth and will help give it a shine, while the beard recovery is a deep conditioning rinse-out product to help rejuvenate maestros. They also offer the trinity of hair care with lightweight pomade, gel, and leave-in conditioning cream to help make your hair feel as unconditionally good as your beard. And listen, I'm not just saying this because they sponsor and endorse the page and this podcast. I'm saying it because I use Maestro Classic myself, and I have been using it for years now, and I love the way my beard feels and how fresh and healthy it is. If you are a bearded man, trust me, it is very important to use the right oils and wash and creams to protect and keep your beard healthy. It's fun to use the foam that comes on your beard when you're taking a shower using the beard wash, and it's quality stuff. Guys, Maestro Classic is the real deal, and if you are a bearded man, do not look any further because this is the product for all of us. Maestro's Classic is one brand for every man. You can find them at Target or online. Or if you're in the partner state of Texas, you can check out the local Heb. Be sure to use your promo code TWC Maestro to save 25% if you do online purchases, and keep doing the thing and get yourself some Maestro Classic. Ooh, yeah, dig it, Maestro, And we are back for another casual conversation with the Classic. And here today with me is none other than entrepreneur, e-commerce legend, 5-time New York Times best-selling author, CEO, keynote speaker, mastermind with social media. And I'm saying that from someone who's read your books and used your techniques myself. And for a lot of you that might not know and what this is all about, is a lifelong fan of professional wrestling. It's true. How are you doing today? Gary Vaynerchuk, aka Gary Vee.
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on the show, brother.
Thank you for coming on. I really want to do this. I always was fascinated with the fact that you were a wrestling fan. I know there's a lot of people out there that do know. They might have seen your interviews with The Undertaker or Stephanie McMahon, or they watch your podcast and they see the figures in the background and stuff. So I always was like, man, I would love to talk to him about professional wrestling. And I would love for my audience to know that you are a big professional wrestling fan. You're also part of this extended family that we have of professional wrestling fans. So I want to start off with asking, like, what were your earliest and first memories of professional wrestling? Like, what made you a fan?
God, this is so fun to think about because I really haven't thought about it. Call it 84. I'm trying to think about, I don't think I knew about wrestling. Don't forget, I was born in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
So I come to the States. I'm 3 years old in 78. By 82 is kind of like when I really start saying I became Americanized, because those first fucking 4 years, we were poor. We barely had a TV. Like there was, so now I'm 7, 82, somewhere around 8 or 9, 83, 84. I think Hogan was already champ. So I don't think I knew he beat the Iron Sheik in the Garden, but I definitely knew about wrestling prior to WrestleMania 1. So much like most people in their 40s, if they didn't have parents or older siblings that were into wrestling, they got hooked up in that incredible era of where Cyndi Lauper's involved, WrestleMania 1. It all popped off in 84, 85.
The rock and wrestling era.
That's right. There's people my age that had the luxury. It was funny. There was an older guy in my neighborhood who used to tell me a lot of stories. This is all coming back to me now. Yeah. So I got into it right then. And immediately there was a guy at the playground. I'm guessing the guy was 30, lived in the townhouse era. And he would tell me about, Ivan Koloff beating Bruno Sammartino with the knee off the top rope in the Garden. He educated me on like Pedro. Don't forget, no internet.
Yeah.
It's a different era. Pedro Morales, early Don, because I knew who Don the Rock Morocco was, but young Don the Rock, and so not only did I get into what was 84, 85, 86 wrestling, right? WrestleMania 1, the action figures that I have on my shelf, buying those, watching every Saturday morning, watching TNT when McMahon would interview people.
Yeah, love that show.
But I also would listen to stories on the bench parks of the 70s, a lot of 70s stuff. So and then I started buying wrestling magazines at Krauser's, which is like a 7-Eleven. So now I'm like learning like the Missing Link and like the Blade Runners and like all these other, like what's UWF and who are the Von Erichs. And then in 86, 87, 88, that stuff started showing up on ESPN, the Dingo Warrior.
Yeah.
So I was not only WWE, but I was like NWA. I was, AWA. I was really a wrestling head and would like get super pumped when like Bad News Brown would come to the WWF. Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute, that's Bad News Allen. Like, like I was really into it. And it was a core part of my entertainment. I mean, my first sleepover party because if you're from an immigrant family, you don't have sleepovers that often. So my first sleepover party was SummerSlam, the first SummerSlam. It was a huge part of my childhood. We wrestled outside. I made wrestling figures by drawing and cutting them. My V friends today, NFTs, a lot of my drawing came from drawing wrestling figures, cutting them out on paper and then putting them on cardboard and gluing them so I could actually wrestle with them. Yeah. Like it was from 85 to 90, it was 84 to 90, that 5-6 year period, outside of Jets football, Yankees baseball, and video games and just being a kid and then my entrepreneurial stuff, shoveling snow, selling lemonade, it was a top 5 thing in my life.
100%. Yeah. A lot of that's really relatable. I can relate to a lot of that in a sense. And it's crazy how it's still with you till today. Like I saw that video on YouTube recently. I know it's been out for a while, but that one where you're unboxing all your LGN figures and you're asking your assistants and stuff, like, do you know who the son? They didn't really know who it are. And you were like a little bit devastated. And so like, how do you not know this person? How do you not know that person? How does it feel for you when you got those figures? Was it sort of more of like when it comes to collectibles, like how do you
mean, so much of what I do now, if you're listening right now, go to YouTube and type in Trash Talk Gary Vee. There's a show I put out. I talk a lot about like ways to advance your career. And I started noticing a lot of people talking about, well, Gary, I don't have any money. Like, cool that you invested $25,000 into Tumblr and it turned into $1 million. I don't have $25,000. And I was like, fair point. I was in a different point in my life. When I was in my teenage and 20s, I would garage sale a lot. I made a lot of money on LJNs and Hasbro action figures.
Yeah.
I would buy 50 Hasbros at a garage sale for $10 and then go list Dusty Rhodes or Andre for fucking $50 to $100 by himself. Right. So, and
I literally just wrote an article for 1:37 p.m. about the 15 rarest in U.S. figures for you guys.
I love it. I got to read it.
So if you check, I just wrote that for you guys. Check it out. Yeah. So when you just brought that up, you brought up two of them that were on that list. And that was the Andre and the Dusty Rhodes Hasbro and the Andre LJN. Yeah.
And I bring it off the top of my head because like, I'm actually trying to see if I can find the article while I'm talking to you. It's what there it is. Love it. I'm going to share it right now on my Twitter, give you a little love.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was just I say that off the top of my head because I really know, right? Like I know what black card LJNs are. Like I know my shit. Like I'm really in this. Like I watched most of the Saturday night's main events. I watched the first 10 WrestleManias. Like this is a culture I really know and love. And so, for me, the LJN thing was really fun. As a matter of fact, this is not a joke. Literally, watch this. If you're listening on podcast, you won't be able to see this, but I'm going to show you something that's going to blow your mind of how big of a part of my life this is. So this is my eBay. I'm just showing you. And then obviously this is my eBay account. The last thing I looked up, I guess, was PSA, but watch this. I hope it's there. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube, guys, you can check this out right now. And go check out that article, guys. I wrote a handful of articles for 1:37 p.m. and that was the most recent one I just did. And it was about the most rare and expensive figures as of today.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this.
Always changing.
Look at the last thing I searched on my eBay account.
Oh, there you go. LGN WWF. There you go. LJN WWF. The last thing you just searched.
So it's like just in me. Like it's a very big part of my culture. 80s and 90s wrestling. was humongous for me. And I actually have 11-year younger brother, AJ.
Yeah.
So what's funny about that is his age lands. So his golden era, so I got him into wrestling,
Yeah.
but his golden era was in between Hogan and the Attitude Era.
Okay.
So AJ like fucks with like Tatanka and like Duke the Dumpster Droese and fucking like that Yokozuna Bret Hart era before we went into Stone Cold and The Rock, right?
Yeah.
So I was, Ludwig Borga and fucking Luger and like that kind of that era. And so like, it's just always, because once I got out of it, very quickly behind me, my brother is now like, I'm like, this is Steamboat and this is, this is Tugboat, excuse me, and this is Earthquake, and like that video game came out. And so like, it's kind of just been a constant heartbeat for me.
And I can relate to that too. My older brother's 10 years older than me, and I don't think I'd have been a wrestling fan. He was born in 1981, so he lived through Hulkamania. That was his thing. I was born in 91, so I lived through that same Bret Hart, Yoko, Attitude Era period. So I can totally relate to that as well. I, being a fan of yours, obviously I've watched your videos. I follow you on Instagram for years and stuff.
Thank you.
Read your books. Crushing It's the one that I was referring to earlier, because doing what I did with the Wrestling Classic was a lot of reading that book on a plane, going to WrestleMania 32 and being like, oh, just slide in the DMs. Just don't worry about it. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, okay, I got this. And I started implementing that in my own stuff that I started doing once I realized that this whole Wrestling Classic thing could be something. I didn't know it at first. I was just doing it for fun. And then I went to Dallas and people were wearing my shirts that I printed for fun for Uber money. And I was like, oh, people actually are about this. And your book helped me a lot with that. But that being said, I love your reels. I love your TikToks. I love your quick motivational videos and stuff. And I always wondered, does any of your like speaking ability come from your love from wrestling and cutting promos back in the day?
So what's
do you ever like get in touch with your wrestling side? Like, I'm going to cut a promo. Is that like part of it?
Not only is it a part of it.
Yeah.
I actually think it's I think basically Gary Vee, the communicator, is a mix between Randy the Macho Man Savage promo and Chris Rock and Eddie Murphy. And I mean, the amount of Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock I listen to in combination to wrestling promo. Yeah, I mean, like sometimes it's actually too ridiculous. Like I cut a video 6 or 7 years ago for a conference I was keynoting, and they're like, hey, like my team came in, they're like, Gary, would you, the ticket sales aren't going that strong. Would you do a quick video to tell everybody about this social media conference? And literally, this is what came out of my mouth. I'm like, hey guys, it's Gary Vee, Civic Center, March 19th. Like, I was like, and then I stopped. I'm like, oh my God, this is literally a fucking wrestling.
I've heard something like that. I'm like, this sounds like a wrestling promo to me.
It's funny. A couple of wrestlers have hit me up on DM who are fans and are like, dude, you cut promos. And I'm like, I do. I know. It took me, I didn't know it for 5 or 6 years of the Gary Vee shit. But then when somebody pointed it out and I really started getting into my feelings on it, I'm like, yeah, I think quite a bit. I think a lot of my content now is clips from my day-to-day life. So it's a little bit less, but my rants, which were a big part of my 2014 to 16 content. And I just did one the other day. I feel that they're like flat out WrestleMania promo videos.
Yeah, because that's what I felt like too. I'd watch him, like I know he's meaning what he says, but I know this is influence from wrestling. I can tell.
100%. It's subconscious, right?
Yeah, like he has that promo skill. Do you have
100%.
a favorite promo? Like I know Macho Man's one of your favorites of all time.
I mean,
so it's easy to be cup of coffee in the big time or something. But
yeah, I mean, I think my favorite is when he's outside by the pool.
Oh, with Mean Gene and Elizabeth.
That's right. And he goes, that Mean Gene, there's a plane going by and I'm not on it. Like, and I'm like, I don't know what the cup rises to the top is all time, but for some reason there's a plane going by and I'm not on it. I don't know what it was but I'll tell you what my favorite was.
Okay.
My favorite was the macro concept of getting us into a frenzy before somebody was actually in the federation.
Yeah.
By the time Mr. Perfect and Razor Ramon were actually in the ring, I was completely out of control into both of them.
Yeah, those vignettes are perfect.
And I think that was the brilliance of Vince McMahon and the WWF/E. Like, to me, they just did such a great job in storytelling that you were just salivating to watch one of these guys beat the shit out of Iron Mike Sharp or K9 or Barry Horowitz. You know, back then wrestlers beat up nobodies on Saturday morning. It wasn't all these big matches.
Yeah, to build a star.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they did the boxing thing, right? They took a bunch of easy fights. And I mean, that's Corporal Kirshner. Like even guys that most people don't know as well, like the hype was just so fun. But what really stood out was Razor and Perfect, because they really had those guys in a frenzy before they even came in Saturday morning and beat somebody up.
They were so creative and so good. Like the one where Razor pushes the guy into the fountain. He's like, don't have luck like him.
And Perfect just doing the bowling and the golf. And
it's crazy because obviously as you get older, you realize it being like that whole football thing, throwing it across the field and him running and catching. You know it's cut in certain things. But as a kid, you're like, whoa, he actually did that. That's crazy.
Oh, as a kid, you're like, King Kong Bundy broke Hogan's ribs and you're like so upset. And like, as a kid, it's just fucking awesome.
I think that's the biggest thing about professional wrestling though, right? It captures you as a kid because you have that imagination. And you only grow to love it as you get older. Because do you ever get that question? How do you still like this? Like this UFC, how do you still like this? I'm always like, because now I understand it as a form of like art. Like it's like,
well, I like it in the way that I like watching Queen's Gambit.
Yeah.
The way that I watch, you know, a show. To me, it's storyline. I mean, I think wrestling is male soap operas.
It really is.
You know, like
more character storyline that really fascinates me now.
As a creative entrepreneur and a marketer and a storyteller, there might not be anything I'm more interested in wrestling. As a matter of fact, literally yesterday, I said to somebody, I can't wait to see who triggers the next monster wrestling era. Literally yesterday, I said, Hogan, Stone Cold and Rock. It feels like wrestling's been doing its thing, but it's very much now like, you know, Brock, Undertaker, The Rock doing WrestleMania. We don't have must-see TV. Like, I don't feel like I need to watch Raw.
Yeah, no, 100%. And
but I feel like what I love about wrestling is at any moment, there's some kid right now who's coming up the ranks, who's going to be the human being that completely captures the national attention. And for another 24 to 39 months, everybody's going to know XYZ, the name, and it's going to make everybody watch Raw every Monday night.
And I think, and to your point, like they just kind of brought back John Cena for that reason, because they haven't really built any stars right now that has catapulted the wrestling back in that thing. But
it's funny. Me and my friends, when I'm like going or like kind of paying a little more attention, I like guessing. I like saying, I see them trying to push this guy. I don't think he's got it. Right. Yeah. And I like to test my ability of like having a sense of like charisma and the consumer. And I don't feel like they've pushed the right people recently.
Have you given AEW a chance at all?
A little, very little bit. Like my wrestling right now in the last 3 years, I'm just so underwater. And definitely when COVID hit in the last, 15, 16 months, I just had so many responsibilities to make sure I was on the offense business wise that. But it keeps going down to the same thing, which is like, I follow it on social.
Yeah.
But I haven't been able to like really, really allocate like the way I like to do it when I'm like, oh, let's do this. Like I need 4 weeks of like following the storylines to really get captivated by the charisma of the characters. And I just haven't been able to give anybody that right now.
Not to be another cheap plug, but if you ever need a catalog, I did also write an article on the 20 top AEW matches.
That's such a good point. Like I'm not as good of a reader. What I'll probably do is go watch the YouTube versions of that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I need to get like interested.
No, for sure. And I just think it's a good catalog.
What's the best one? What did you decide was the best one?
For me, I think it was between Cody and Dustin, but that's also because, once again, I'm also a character storyline guy. And there's a really good story there between the two brothers and whatnot. And it was, if you watch that match, like, you feel like you're being told a story rather than just watching a match with a bunch of acrobatics and you don't know what's happening. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, I'm way more story than I am performance.
100%.
I love performance. No,
Yeah.
I mean fucking Rey Mysterio Jr. and Eddie.
Yeah.
Like some of this stuff is just outstanding.
But the performance stands out more if you're intrigued by the characters in the story.
Yeah, and if I'm intrigued by the story, can overlook poor wrestling.
100%.
Right, like Hogan Warrior WrestleMania is not iconic wrestling, but the story's fucking
and that build up, the ultimate
insane. Was insane.
Yeah. Just to see those two eye to eye was like a moment, and that was.
But on the flip side, performance, like when you watch Piper Bret Hart WrestleMania, where Piper really puts Bret over. Like it's a very underrated moment in wrestling history because it's like in that pocket of like in between.
SummerSlam 90, I think, won, which was like a transitional time in a sense.
I just think that when you see stuff like that, because Piper was such a good wrestler too, and Bret,
there's still a story there because Bret was the up and comer and Piper was the champion, the Intercontinental champion. It was his time to get that singles run. So like the story always does kind of make things and elevate things more. And if the story is really good, you'll be invested in the match. And if they're just really good wrestlers, then the match is even more memorable because
that's right.
You know what I mean? I'm gonna ask you this a little bit more of a fun question since you're an old school fan and you grew up watching wrestling. Say you were a manager. Say you were Bobby Heenan. Okay, you're gonna start your Gary Vee family, V friends, you can call it, NFT stuff. Who would be on that Survivor Series team of 5? Who would be your 5 guys?
Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah,
who's disproportionately my favorite wrestler of all time.
Same here. That's something I agree with fully.
Okay, I really want to give you a real answer, so I'm going to really think this through. Y2J.
Yeah,
I love Chris Jericho. I've always loved Jericho. I would say I usually to give fast answers, but I really want to think this through because I don't want to give you bullshit. I would probably put the British Bulldogs on there.
Davey and Dynamite?
Yes, because I'm thinking about like who did I really love, like genuinely love, and I would say the British Bulldogs were the closest thing in my prime to Macho Man.
Yeah.
And then I'm probably going to go. Well, if I can blend leagues since the WWE now owns them all.
Yeah.
My favorite.
This is your dream team. This is your stable.
I would go with Nikita Koloff. The Russian sickle.
Yeah.
The Russian sickle is still one of my favorite finishing moves. Yeah. He was just so fucking badass. And I still always had an underlining feeling towards Russia since I was from there. And so I would say Macho Man, the British Bulldogs, Jericho, and Nikita Koloff.
That's a stacked team with different styles of wrestling right there. You got a powerhouse, you got some flamboyance, you got the tag team. That's good stuff right there. It's a solid team. No, for sure. Let's talk about the Macho Man really quickly. Because he's my favorite of all time too. Once again, that also goes back to I think I like my imagination being captured. I was a little kid. This guy was on like WWF Mania and whatnot, just all colorful in his cowboy hats and whatnot. What made you a Macho Man fan? What made you like? Because during the time of Hulkamania, almost everybody was a Hulkamaniac. It was always Hogan. My brother was Hogan.
I realized in my older something happened later in my life when like I didn't like Tiger Woods or Kobe Bryant, and then when they were older, I loved them. Yeah. And when that happened in my 30s, I was like, oh, and this is just a very recent realization. I feel like I'm an underdog. I love underdogs. To your point, everybody loved Hogan. I didn't want to be like that. And so I decided, I really want to be different. The other thing that happened was, if you remember the storyline, everybody was vying for Macho Man, that whole manager thing.
With Miss Elizabeth. I still think Hogan was the heel there. He had lust in his eyes for Elizabeth. I'm gonna say it.
so when he goes, and I thought it was gonna be Slick. I remember I was like, Slick. I was like, Slick's gonna get him.
Oh, when he was vying for a new manager, yeah.
And when he said, "My manager is Elizabeth," and she comes down, you got to remember, I'm like 10, 11.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not sure, but I think that might have been the moment I became a man.
Yeah.
So between underdog. And then he was such a great wrestler, right? If you watch that Tito Santana match that he wins, I mean, and then obviously fucking the Ricky the Steamboat match. I'm so pumped that is like the greatest match of all time. It means so much to me. That storyline, that was tough for me a little bit
Were you a
because
Steamboat fan?
I wasn't, but I
Okay.
liked them.
Yeah.
But it was so nasty, like the throat. It was like it just seemed
The ring
so
bell through
intense.
the barricade.
But I stuck with him through and through. I loved George the Animal Steel because the Jets were my favorite team, and he had a green tongue, and that was big for me. So yeah, I think it was a combination of Miss Elizabeth at the age that I was, being counter different, and just the charisma and like who he was.
He was just a complete package. I know we're gonna wrap this up soon, so I want to ask you this really quickly as well. It's the big question. You can take your time to think about it. I feel like we've touched on it a bit here and there, but at the end of the day, like, why is wrestling important to you?
It's because outside of Walt Disney, I think Vince McMahon has been one of the most significant storytellers of characters in our society.
Yeah.
And I think VeeFriends being one of the most important things in my life over the next 50 years is going to make sense to why I always was associating to Transformers, wrestling, G.I. Joe, Disney. I'm a storytelling, character-based human being. And I think wrestling's unique because unlike wrestling, everything else is fictional. This is like real humans that play these characters, but it's storytelling. And I think it's been the most significant storytelling machine in our society. And that I admire.
I love that. I like to call it the greatest form of art and athleticism because it's the one form that puts both of them together.
I agree.
And it's amazing stuff.
I think Dana White has a lot of Don King meets Vince McMahon. Like, I think he's why UFC is so incredible is it's like slightly the reverse thing, right? Which is it's real life, but they do such a great job getting you excited about the fighters. And that matters. That's what great promoting
is. No
is.
matter how much people want to say UFC's real and it's not, they took a lot from professional wrestling to get you hyped.
Yeah, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
Like WWE, now is very much affected by, and obviously has done a lot with the Angles and Resners and Shamrocks and and Bobby and they're good for each other in my opinion.
Yeah. They do. They work well in hand. Look, if Brock didn't go to UFC and come back being the Brock Lesnar he was,
100%,
you wouldn't have that Brock Lesnar kick.
100%.
You couldn't bring Ronda Rousey in the way you brought Ronda Rousey.
No way.
No
way.
And you were there at WrestleMania 35. I saw you front row. I was there as well. I was too nervous to say hi then, but I saw you.
Well, next time.
That being said, because I am a fan of yours and I've listened to your speeches and I've read your books and I follow you on social media, you always say take advantage of the opportunity again. I've had the opportunity to sit here with you, so I'm just going to throw it out there. If there's anything you ever want to do in the future that is wrestling related, I'm your guy.
It's noted. Send me an email. Literally, send me an email right now. I want to save that and put it in a folder.
For sure, because the last 7 years I've been running this page. I've made a ton of relationships with wrestlers within the industry and people that work backstage, as well as a valued voice with the fans. I've been crapping on John Cena all week, but they still love me. That's how close we are. You know what I mean? So if there's anything new, I'm more than
send me that email right now. I'm open to it.
I will for sure. And I got my articles at 1:37 p.m. too. So
cheers.
You can check that out. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
You're doing the thing.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
It's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.
Hey everybody, it's the Wrestling Classic Justin here. I just want to give a huge shout out to Maestro Classic. Have you ever wondered how superstars such as Triple H, Sheamus, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, and Kofi Kingston all stay so perfectly groomed? It's all because of Maestro Classic. Maestro Classic is the best in its category and loves crafting a better you in beard care. They are undeniably good at keeping your beard clean and conditioned. They have a sulfate-free beard wash to clean without drying your skin and leave a conditioning beard butter to help groom it smooth. The beard oil is silky smooth and will help give it a shine, while the beard recovery is a deep conditioning rinse-out product to help rejuvenate Maestros. They also offer the trinity of hair care with lightweight pomade, gel, and leave-in conditioning cream to help make your hair feel as unconditionally good as your beard. And listen, I'm not just saying this because they sponsor and endorse the page and this podcast. I'm saying it because I use Maestro Classic myself, and I have been using it for years now, and I love the way my beard feels and how fresh and healthy it is. If you are a bearded man, trust me, it is very important to use the right oils and wash and creams to protect and keep your beard healthy. It's fun to use, the foam that comes on your beard when you're taking a shower using the beard wash, and it's quality stuff. Guys, Maestro Classic is the real deal, and if you are a bearded man, do not look any further because this is the product for all of us. Maestro's Classic is one brand for every man. You can find them at Target or online. Or if you're in the partner state of Texas, you can check out the local Heb. Be sure to use your promo code TWC Maestro to save 25% if you do online purchases, and keep doing the thing and get yourself some Maestro Classic. Ooh, yeah, dig it, Maestro,